We are bringing you an exclusive interview with one of America's most experienced political insiders in a moment. But first, take a look at this.
Jeb Bush, once a favorite mainstream candidate for the Republicans, has dropped out of the presidential race after a disappointing finish in the South Carolina primary last Saturday. Jeb is the son of George H.W. Bush and younger brother of George W. Bush, the 41st and 43rd U.S. presidents, respectively. His campaign had the support of Donald Lewis Evans, chairman of the Bush-Cheney 2000 campaign. Before that, he also worked for Bush's successful gubernatorial campaigns back in 1994 and 1998. He was appointed Secretary of Commerce in 2001 and stayed in that position until 2005.
Well, we sat down with Don Evans in Beijing this week for his insights on the Republican Party's primary so far, including the rise of Donald Trump and the fall of Jeb Bush. According to history, at least, once a candidate from the Republican Party at the primary gets South Carolina and New Hampshire, it's very likely this person will be in the office if the Republican Party is going to be in the White House. So if that is the case, Donald Trump seems to be the name that really pops up.
I don't think that Donald Trump's going to be the president, because I think people are going to start to, I think the field is winnowed down to like 3 now, and now the country will begin to look at 3 instead of 14 or 15 and 16. And a lot of those, I mean, a lot of those that were supporting Jeb Bush, I don't think they're going to go to Donald Trump. A lot of those that were supporting Chris Christie, I don't think they're going to go to Donald Trump.
Why not? Why not? What about Donald Trump? From your perspective, what are his qualities, or that are fitting for the office and not?
Look, I'm not sure. I don't know that he has ever done anything in the area of public service. I mean, he's built some big hotels, and that's interesting. And he's got a reality TV show, and that's interesting. But to me, that doesn't qualify you for leading the largest country in the world, the country that has to lead the world. And when I look at just some of the qualities of the individual, I don't think that, I think when the American people finally speak on this issue, I don't think Donald Trump's going to be the president. But you know, in our process, I say often, there's kind of 2 sets of skills. You have to have one set of skills to get elected, and then another set of skills to actually run the office, which is the more important set of skills to have. But if you can't get elected, it really doesn't matter, right? But there's a very interesting phenomenon going on in this year's presidential primary. And and one thing that is very encouraging to me is the participation. I've never seen the country so engaged, so active, so in all of the early primaries that we've already had, they're record turnouts, and not just by 10% or 15%, but by 50%. So that's a very good thing, that the American people are more engaged in this presidential election than I think probably in my lifetime.
Because they're more angry, they're angry, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. There is a lot of that, and there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of emotions that are kind of you're feeling in this election cycle. I think those that have come into the process, the American people that have not been in the process before, not been as engaged in it, not as active in it, I'm glad they are engaged in it, active in it. I think as the campaign goes along, they're going to learn more about the fact that what we're doing is we're electing the leader of America. And the kind of qualities you want to have in the leader of America.
Do you think Donald Trump
early on, it's all about showmanship, and it's all about you know, just putting on a show. I mean, we used to, when we get off the airplane years ago and campaign stopped, we say it's showtime, and so. But sooner or later, showtime is over with, and
when
people
do you
really
expect the showtime
I think we're moving into that period, because as the field winnows down, you start to see people concentrate on the 3 or 4 that are left. We started with 6 in the Republican Party. We had 16 or 17 candidates, and it's hard to focus on, you know, okay, 2 or 3 of them.
But Donald Trump's lead is very obvious at this time.
Well, it's interesting. It's very interesting, but it's been showtime. I mean, he's a reality TV show entertainer.
Has politics changed that much?
Well, we're going to find out. I mean, I don't have the answer to all of that. I'm going to be interested to see if these people that have come into the process that were really excited about the showtime piece of it and the entertainment piece of it, if they really start to get serious about the kind of leader that America needs and the world needs. I mean, we're not talking about just a leader for America, we're talking about a leader for the world.
Having said that, though, with your experience, is there anything that you would rather change about the Jeb Bush campaign? Any details?
No, not at all.
Directions?
No, it just wasn't his time. Look, if you run, you've got to be yourself. And Jeb, that's the only way to run. You can't go and be somebody else. You got to go be yourself.
Governor Bush, at his concession speech, he said he refused to bend to the wind.
Yeah.
Political wind. What kind of political wind do you think he was referring to? Is that political wind likely to spread even further? What would that mean for the Republican politics? What about the establishments in the Republican politics? Are they still working?
Very much so. But the Republican Party is going to be just fine. We're going through, like the Democrats. I mean, they're going through a period in their party where they're trying to kind of make sure they have their identity and what they stand for. In the Republican Party, and we're a big tent party. We want kind of all points of views under the tent. There's certainly a group that's pretty far to the right on some of the issues like immigration. There's lots of people in the Republican Party, including me, that just doesn't feel like the number one position we ought to take is to build a wall. I mean, immigration. I thought Jeb Bush, in fact, for my position, I mean, he knew more about the issue of immigration than anyone on the stage. His wife is from Mexico. He's got a heart for it. You know, so I just think sometimes we make a few radical kind of statements out there, but it's showtime. And that's all in the campaign, and to get everybody all excited. When you really get down to governing, you know, you got to be real about it. You got to be practical. You got to have some wisdom, and like I say, a big dose of humility is not a bad thing to have either. So the Republican Party is going to be fine, and look, the Democratic Party is going to be fine. This is an unusual campaign. I mean, I haven't seen anything like it in our lifetime. Social media and the role that it plays now. I mean, you know, it's different, but America is we'll land in the right spot. I'm very confident of it.
But the thing is, whether this campaign process, this showtime, really helping the real, most eligible person to come out and serve in the White House for the interests of America?
That's a great question, but I got to say that on balance, I want the American people engaged. I want them paying attention, and I hope along the way they get educated in this process. The entertainment of campaigning is, it's kind of exciting, but I hope along the way those new individuals that are just getting into it say, you know what, we really got to elect somebody that will be a great leader for all the American people, and for the world for that matter.
What was the critical moment for you, Secretary Evans, at the time when you were serving as the chairman of the campaign committee for President Bush, the son, of course, back in the year 2000?
Well, when
the critical moment when you know things are really going your way.
Well, when the Supreme Court voted 7-2 in our favor, people say it was a 5-4 vote, but really it was a 7-2 vote. But we had a very unusual election, as
Absolutely.
you know. We didn't. I was on TV at 2 o'clock in the morning the night of the election and talking to 75 million people and to tell everybody that was watching, the 75 million, it's not over yet. And we're going to have to continue to count the votes. And we counted for another 32 days, and it went to the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court ruled 7-2 in Bush's favor. So that was the moment.
That was the moment. But what was it like for you? Enormous amount of pressure, I would assume, as the chairman of the campaign committee.
Well,
during those days.
Yeah, well, you just get caught up in the effort. It's exciting. I mean, listen. I mean, it's hard work. It's every day. it's sun up till late in the evening, and but you know, how many people have the pleasure, the opportunity, whatever you want to call it, to be that close to a presidential campaign.
Donald Evans served as U.S. Secretary of Commerce during George W. Bush's administration from 2001 to 2005. He did a lot to improve China-U.S. trade relations. He visited China 4 times during his 4-year term in office, which left him with a better understanding of China and helped build friendships with Chinese people that continue even today. More than a decade ago, he visited a remote village in the city of Xianyang in northwest China and got to know 2 young blind brothers from a poor peasant family. He has been personally supporting them ever since. Now these 2 brothers have established their own small business. One of the brothers is getting married this week. In order to offer his heartfelt blessings, Donald Evans and his wife traveled back to that village and celebrated with them.
And so I went west to a little village just outside of Xi'an and met 2 blind brothers. One was 9 and one was 11. And they had just started a program that was helping them learn to read and write in Braille. And so I was, first of all, just thrilled to have the chance to go out and meet them. Saw the conditions that they were living in, which were, you can't even call them modest.
What was it like?
Well, it was a little 2-room, dirt-floored shack is what it was. And so it was, and it was a powerful moment for me to be there and meet them, and living in those conditions, see the smile they had on their face. And I could feel their gentle hearts and gentle souls and their passion to learn how to read and write in Braille. And they took me to the little school that was close by where they were learning this talent, this skill. And so I was so impressed. I said, look, I'm going to see leadership in China tomorrow, back east. And so I want you to write them a letter in Braille for me. Dear leadership of China, Don Evans is my good friend, and sign your name. And so they did that. And I took that letter with me back to...
They didn't say, be kind to Don Evans.
No, I didn't give him any more instruction. I thought that was enough, and I was hoping that would, me being their friend, I'm trying to come back as their friend, and so I'd made friends out there. And
15 years passed.
Yeah.
What was it like for you to keep in touch with them over the past 15 years?
Well, I kept coming back. I left office, you know, I was Secretary of Commerce, but I left office in early 2005, but I came back again and came back again, and so I kept coming back to see them and seeing how they were doing and helped them get through school and learn a vocation, the vocation of massage therapy, and help them get through the school. But I would talk to them every year.
Have you ever had a massage by them?
I have.
Wow.
Yeah, well,
How was it?
Well, I had one Friday, as a matter of fact, right after the wedding. And
were you happy? The skills they had were acquired?
No, they've developed a skill. They're very good. I wish I could remember the name of their shop just out of Xi'an. I'd give them a little promotion.
What was it like for you to attend a real, like a real Chinese wedding?
Well,
with the one that you really love, because it's almost like your boy in a way.
No. It was so powerful, and one of the reasons it was so powerful is because not only was I attending a traditional, real village Chinese wedding, but to have seen the change in their lives over the last 14 years was just breathtaking. To see how their conditions had improved so much, to see that they had paved roads to their house, to see that their houses have been expanded. They'd see that the older son, they had actually built a house for him and his wife to live in. And so, I mean, that to me what really moved me. Now, they put on a grand celebration, and there were fireworks, and there was music, and they fed the village. I mean, the food was for everybody there.
A lot of people, I would assume.
A lot of people.
Where were you sitting? Which table were you sitting?
I was
with the parents.
Yeah, I was sitting at the head table, and I got up and made some remarks.
What did you say?
Well, I said to the people, they all wanted to come up and say, "Thank you, Mr. Secretary. You've done so much for these young boys, and you changed their life." And I said, well, just let me assure you that they've done a whole lot more for me than I've done for them. As I've watched them grow and watched them be able to live independently.
Did you share some secrets about marriage with them?
You know, just be very kind to your wife. Be very kind and loving to her. Always do whatever she asks you to do.
Great advice, I have to say.
Yeah.
It works in all kinds of cultures.
No, it totally does. No, look, I mean, the key to it is love, right? I mean, just keep that at the very center of your marriage. Don't ever forget that.
Right.
Hold that in your heart. And
Remember
and,
their response when you said that?
Yeah, yes, but secretary.
Kept on nodding
yeah,
their head,
yeah,
especially when the wife is around.
No, totally. But it was just, it was so wonderful. And I tell you, well, you know, the other thing that I've learned from this is when the leadership of the country know your heart and why you're here, and you're here to help the people of China and lift them up, and when you do it, when your deeds show that, you know, your words match your deeds, and they trust you. And so I learned from that I think I developed a lot of trust with the Chinese leadership, because they saw that when I told them, you know, they said, don't ever forget those two blind brothers. That's when I came back with the letter, and I saw the emotion on them, and they told me that don't ever forget those two blind brothers. And I said, don't worry, I won't. And even when I got out of office, which was 11 years ago now, I kept going to see them.